So, Mark, did you see the pictures of the Huntridge Theater sign lit up for the first time in 15 years? This theater has a really long history. It opened way back in 1944 as a cinema, and then it became a very popular performing arts center. It's on the historic places list. Had a famous roof collapse at one point, but it's been closed since 2004 and will eventually reopen. A little piece of Vegas history that maybe people don't know about.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it before, and it looks amazing. And then you see the picture next to it of how decrepit and run down it looked, and it's amazing somebody would take the time to put the money back into it. Probably been cheaper, easier to just knock it down. So I'm glad that they preserved the history, and it looks like a cool place to go for a movie or whatever. I'm guessing it might be like an artsy type of cinema going forward.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a performing arts venue again. And yeah, this place is, I remember being a kid and it just was run down and decrepit. Even when it was open for shows, like they did a lot of punk rock stuff back there in the 90s. And I remember when the roof collapsed, and it seems like people have always been trying to bring it back to its heyday. But finally it has some investors giving it love, and great to see that sign lit up. It's beautiful architecture located on Maryland Parkway, not far from the Strip, not far from downtown, and hopefully we'll get to see some shows there soon.
See, we're bringing the small shows back. There you go. We got a theater.
Mark, we've talked a lot about the MSG Sphere, so I don't want to discuss a lot of it. People can go back to our previous shows to talk about all the kind of woes of the company, but they did release a link for Verified Fan for Ticketmaster, so you can sign up to get on the list to buy tickets when they announce the dates. We still don't know any dates. And you can also go to u2.com and sign up for their membership program. I think they have a free option, and it says that those members will get access to tickets first as well. So if you really want to see U2 at the Sphere, do those two things.
This feels a bit like, and I know we're going to talk about it in a second, the Strat rollout for parking. Like, hey, we're going to have shows. We finally are going to let you know who. We're not going to let you know when. Sign up, and you can maybe get tickets for a date that you don't even know if you can go. Like, you should know when the opening days are by now, I feel like.
Maybe that's a sign that they're still running behind on construction. You know, we've seen mixed things said. They said it's going to open November for Formula One. Then they said the outside will be done by then. So we really don't know. And I think that they probably don't have that firm timeline yet. But my guess is it's probably getting delayed a little bit more. But get on that list. That's the first way to find out when the dates come. And to get an opportunity to buy them. I've had really bad luck with Verified Fan lately. I haven't been chosen for any shows. Last week's Adele show, or Adele sale, I got cut out of as well. But tickets were crazy expensive, so I didn't feel too bad.
Hey, you know people love to hate on Ticketmaster, so let's get it.
All right, Mark, it wouldn't be MTM Vegas if we didn't talk about casino carpet. And I had this on the agenda for the last couple weeks trying to get to it, but it's been so busy. But casino.org wrote an article about casino carpet myths. And a lot of people do have like lore around casino carpets, like why they make them the way they are. And I think casino carpeting has come a long way. We're seeing a lot of new casinos with beautiful carpet. I showed Resorts World Bimini, which I think has one of the nicest carpets I've seen. It's still tropical with the flowers and leaves and stuff, but it's very modern. But we see all kinds. Circa has one of the nicer carpets. But a lot of people think that they do it, to keep you in the casino, to make it dark and stuff. But in reality, they're really just trying to keep it clean, and they have to cover up the dirt because so many people are walking over it.
Yeah, I think, the lack of windows in most casinos is so you lose track of time. I do believe that. I don't think carpet plays much of a role into that, but, they do need to hide dirt and people's pee and all the other stuff that happens at casinos, and throw it up on the carpet. There you go. People, have your drink. We said it.
You brought up the peeing, which we that peeing video, we definitely just thought about covering it, but decided not to. But I'm sure all of you guys out there who follow Vegas have seen that. But another thing about carpet is that it really is for branding, right? You walk into Wynn and you see that bright red carpet, you know what it is. We even see that with Horseshoe with their new carpet design, which, is not that imaginative. It just has horseshoes on it. But they do use it as a way to sort of brand it, give you the feel of the casino. Tropicana always had very tropical carpet. You go down the list. But like I said, I think more new casinos have a more modern take that still allows them to have it clean, but also not just like the flowery designs. Because it seemed like back in the day, every casino just had flowers on their carpet or, that sort of design. Yeah. And I'm glad we finally evolved from that.
Okay, worst carpet in Vegas. I will say Virgin Hotels hallways.
That orange carpet? Yeah, I think you win on that. That's definitely the loudest carpet I can remember. I don't know, but I do love, bring it up again, give a shout out to Slots of Fun for their old school Vegas carpet. Let us know what your favorite carpet is, and check out that article for like the myths, because it's an interesting article. And let's talk Strat real quick. Another follow-up to the story. On March 27th, they told the Review Journal that there would still be free parking in parts of their garage. And of course, we knew that wasn't going to happen. Some elites, I think, will get free parking. So if you're a player at their casino, but yeah, they're going to charge. Go ahead.
Are you ashamed to claim that if you're an elite at the Strat to get the free parking?
Yeah. They have varying prices, so I will put a picture up on the screen so you guys can see exactly what it is. But I don't care that they're charging for parking. I mean, it sucks, but that they lied to everybody, kept hiding this for months. What are they doing?
Like, what is the big draw here for parking? Is it people going to the Arts District and parking there? I don't even know. Is this really a problem that they need to charge? And at that point, like, maybe you get a couple of them to actually go in and grab something to eat on their way out, or maybe gamble a little bit. So I feel like it's a wash, and you're just trying to force the people that do want to come there to gamble to maybe go elsewhere. I mean, if the Wynn isn't charging for parking, how can you charge?
Yeah, and speaking of Wynn, here are the resorts on the Strip that have free parking still. The Wynn, the Venetian, Palazzo, Encore, Treasure Island, Trump International Hotel, Circus Circus, Tropicana, and Sahara. So there you go. So
I'd still kind of put Resorts World in there too, because all you have to do is show your player's card. So that was an easy one to get free. It doesn't even have to have status.
Yeah, and Resorts World makes it super easy, because even if you don't have your card, you can use the app. If you have a player's card account. So I'm good with that. Like I said, if it's a business decision, it is one, but just don't lie to people and hide that it's coming. And again, a quote to the Review Journal on their March 27th article says the first 2 floors will be free, which sounds insane too, because people are like, why would the first 2 floors be free? And then, I don't know, but that's what they said. I even went back and checked it this morning. So shame on Strat, not for charging, but for not being honest with their customers. Hopefully,
and for charging.
Yeah, okay. Did you see this article in Bloomberg about beating roulette, and this guy named Nico Tosa, who kind of figured out how to beat roulette systems by kind of analyzing the wheel, looking for flaws in the way that it's spun? And the story kind of follows him in the Ritz Club in London, where he took out like 1.3 million pounds by the time he was done back in 2004. And it kind of talks about the evolution of roulette and how they've kind of counteracted these measures that people use to see how the wheel is going to land. Even in like online roulette, I learned that people in early days were using programs to analyze it, and now they're using like weird lasers and different things to randomize it. They've even redesigned roulette wheels in physical casinos to add like lips and to make sure that they don't have any imperfections. And now they're using like computerized systems to make sure it's completely level and even. But apparently, like back in the day, if you could find a wheel and see where the imperfections were, the ball would almost always drop in the same spot. It's an interesting article, kind of breaks it all down, but it was possible to beat roulette.
Yeah, I found it really, really interesting. You know, if you can flip where you don't need 2 or 3 numbers on a roulette wheel, depending on how many zeros and all that, you can, you know, transfer the odds to your favor. And you know, when we first started gambling at 20, 21, wherever, depending on where you went, there was those big ridges around the roulette wheel that would make the ball bounce, but those ended up, some would get worn down and it would kind of create a pattern and stuff, and that's why you see just the lips around the numbers, which I thought was interesting. And then also the online stuff, you know, is probably more noticeable now because, you know, if they just have like the carpet going to a wood floor area and slightly off balance, people with computers can figure out where that's, you know, more likely to drop, and they're hitting up these casinos early on, even before their own internal investigators would catch on or catch it. You know, these online casinos kind of present some opportunities for people. A lot of the one, like in Michigan, a lot of the casinos use the same company. They don't have their own live dealer company, so you can play 3 different casinos and you'd be at the same table from all these different casinos, which offers you some opportunity if you have, you know, match bets and all that type of stuff, promos going on. So it's just, you know, a new game that people are trying to figure out how they can get their advantage.
Back in 2004, they investigated this. They thought they were using some sort of electronic thing. There was
Palm
him and 2 other
pilots.
players.
Remember Palm Pilots?
Yeah, exactly. But they didn't find anything, and he basically claims that he was able to study the wheel and figure out where the ball was going to drop. And you're not always right, but they're able to predict with good enough accuracy, like I said, to flip the odds in their favor, and then over time you're going to win, because you're going to get it wrong once in a while, but as long as you get it right, more often than not. And sometimes they would go 10, 12 different spins and win in a row, which is, insane in roulette. So definitely check out that Bloomberg article. Really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting, when they were talking about how he would wait until the ball had been spun and then wait a couple seconds. And they said the only way to negate this type of thing or this type of game or this advantage is to not allow bets once the ball is spun. But they won't do that because there's such a small amount of people that know how to do this, as well as that, cuts off a whole bunch of extra bets of people walking up to the table and throwing it down. So I thought it was kind of funny that they could counteract this very easily, but they won't because there's more money to be made.
Yeah, people love to throw their bets down because you feel like you got a better sense of the wheel, I guess, once it's already spinning. So that's where people love to do it. But, in reality, you probably don't. And the other thing is that we've seen, adding extra zeros.
Triple zero in some places.
Yeah, triple zero, yeah. Quadruple zero coming soon.
Coming to the Strat in the parking lot.
So where do casinos have the highest margins? Las Vegas Advisor had a cool article about this, interviewing a couple of former casino executives here in Las Vegas, talking about where the revenue, where the greatest profit is driven. And it's clear that it is the casino, although the biggest revenue comes from the hotel, which makes a lot of sense. But profit margins are going to vary based on, what the rates they can get, because they really have a fixed cost on a hotel room to clean it, to maintain it. And on some nights they can charge a lot more, so their profit margins may be higher. But one interesting thing in the article was just talking about restaurants and comps and how they inflate the prices of food at restaurants because a lot of people are using comps in them, and that makes them feel like they're getting more value. This is something we see in our travel side, right? People think that they're getting insane value using points. They didn't really get that because they weren't going to pay that value. But it's interesting how they play these mind games.
Yeah, and it's kind of counterintuitive when you think about it, because nowadays you're just redeeming, points for a penny for most places. So you're just having to redeem more points. Back in the day when they would just write out like a comp on a piece of paper and say, hey, here you go, 2 free dinners or whatever. That made more sense because you're like, hey, I just got a $60 dinner or whatever, when now you have to redeem more points. So it's kind of funny in that aspect that it still makes us think we're getting more value when we're getting less. But it's not surprising. We've seen the prices, And this also offsets them so much. Like, a lot of their profit is coming in the restaurants on paper. The profit's coming from these comp players. Where they said if they didn't have that, they would go bankrupt, which it may be, but you'd also probably have lower prices and be more, competition compared to off strip, and people would eat there more. So I don't know if I buy that totally.
I think that was more the case in old Las Vegas. Now we have so many different restaurants from different, operators, things like that, higher end stuff. But like the casino coffee shop back in the day, I think clearly operated like that a lot of the time. And, you would see it in the service and in the experience. They weren't really worrying about the customer as much. So I think
still
that
happens at the Bellagio.
So I'm sure there are still restaurants that, especially like the coffee shops at some of the hotels, where we do see really high prices compared to similar food elsewhere. They're probably relying heavily on comps, or at least a good portion of it. And yeah, it's interesting to see how they account for that. The casino still is the king in Las Vegas, but it's still driving a significant amount of the revenue and everything else. But they've diversified a lot more, because I think it used to be a much bigger part of the chunk back in the day.
Yeah, it just shows you how intertwined gambling is to everything. Like, people are staying at the rooms, and a big portion of those are comped or discounted for players. They're dining in the restaurants, and they're only dining there because they have comps. So it's kind of like the one thing that feeds everything else. Show tickets, getting comp tickets, getting discounts, or they use their points to pay for them, stuff like that. So I think, it basically has its hands in everything, which is to be expected, but good to see that that's still the case in Vegas.
Now, Las Vegas has a history of crazy proposed projects, including the most recent one, which was that moon resort that supposedly was going to go on the Wynn West land, which, I haven't heard anything about.
I like
that.
the Atari resort.
Yeah, the Atari, that was supposed to get built. COVID kind of killed that one if it was ever going to happen. There's some older ones back in the day, but this one I think takes the cake because it's not on the Strip. It's called Harlem Nights. Sitting on about 2 acres of land in the historic west side of Las Vegas. The historic west side, basically, when Las Vegas was a young city, kind of west of where the 15 is now, north of downtown, that's called the west side because that really was the west side of town. And it's an area that hasn't been as economically vibrant as some others. A lot of businesses have gone away, and they don't have a lot of investment there recently. But this guy wants to build Harlem Nights there, a 1920s Harlem-themed resort on just 2 acres of land. He wants to build it 67 stories stories tall. Now, the zoning only allows for 7 stories. It says it's going to be 687 feet tall, 764 hotel rooms, 458 residential units, a 900-seat theater. Now, Mark, you and I looked at the aerial of this, and I will show it to people now. You can see it just doesn't belong in this area. I doubt they're going to even approve this. The Planning Commission has recommended denial, although the City Council could overrule them on this. It says it's going to be $700 million investment. But question 1, does this belong in the area? And question 2, do you think anybody would go there even if they built it?
Yeah, I think that this is more pie in the sky than All Net Arena, to be honest, because I mean, you have all these residential units, and there's nothing for a resident to go to within walking distance, really, from the aerials I saw. And where 2 acres, like, where are you going to put all this stuff for 2 acres? Parking? Are people going to drive over there? There's no walkability around it. It just seems bizarre. And I love that it's like the 1920s, but it looks like 1984 Tron on the outside of the building with the lights and everything. So I don't really get it. I do wish somebody would do something like Roaring Twenties. I think that would be cool, even if it's just like a show, a dinner show, like watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. You go into these big rooms where you're eating dinner and comedians up. I'd like something like that, like Classy, to come back, with singers and everything. I think that'd be really cool, like old school Vegas throwback show.
I'm not against the Harlem themed resort either. I just don't understand the picking this property in this area. You can see it's pretty far from downtown. I mean, it's not 5 or 10 minute drive, but like you said, it's not going to have any synergy with other properties. It's way too tall. Like, can you imagine owning the house on the next street? You're going to have this big shadow over your property. I mean,
7 stories would be tall for the area, I feel like, much less.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the second tallest building if it's built in Las Vegas behind Fontainebleau, I believe. Even taller than the Guitar Tower that's proposed, slightly taller than Resorts World. So this is an insane project. It's not in Manhattan, so I don't know what he's thinking. Why not build something more modest if you want to do something in that area, and maybe build a 15-story structure, get a little bit of a variance? But he's going for the sky. I guess I hope he can do it. I mean, we are always happy to see new projects, but with things like the Dream shutting down because they can't get financing, hard to believe that banks are going to back this thing up for $700 million. But crazier things will happen, I guess.
I'm going to put this in the no.
Me too. So let us know what you guys think about everything we discussed today, the Harlem Nights, Casino Carpet, the comps and how they account for that, Roulette, and that crazy story about how somebody figured out how to beat it. Hit us up in the comments. We'll discuss everything there. We do 2 shows a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and we'll be back in just another couple days with a new show. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.
So, they have different varying things. I'll throw something up on. They have varying things. No. I caught myself, so it's getting cut out. Oh, God.